Major announcement came out of the presidential office today. South Korean President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Donald Trump will meet for talks next month in Washington. As the two are likely to make various approaches to break the nuclear impasse, hopes are high the talks could melt the ice between North Korea and the U.S. For an in-depth discussion on the issue, law professor Song Se-ryeon from Kyung Hee University now joins us in the studio. Good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
I want to start off by talking a little bit about the timing of this upcoming summit. Soon after the Hanoi summit, Presidents Moon and Trump agreed to meet as soon as possible. If they meet on April 11th as scheduled, it'll be about 6 weeks after the no-deal Hanoi summit.
Right.
How do you assess the timing of this summit?
Well, I think it's better sooner than later. I think that the schedule reflects some sort of urgency that both parties feel. For some time, the President Trump and the Kim Jong-un has had a distinctively dynamics of negotiation there, as if they are in the negotiation table, the tit for tat and all those. So it means that President Trump feels that there has to be a keeping of the momentum for the negotiation, and there is a worry that if Kim Jong-un feels slighted because of the delay, we've seen the North resort to kind of a brinkmanship dynamics or get detached from the whole process. So I think that Donald Trump is very careful trying to contain the North on the table, and we've seen that by Donald Trump deliberately not trying to provoke North Korea by canceling the sanctions.
So sooner or later, sooner, better than
sooner.
later,
right,
to
right.
keep up the momentum of nuclear dialogue. Now, straight after the Hanoi summit, U.S. President Trump gave a call to President Moon from Air Force One, suggesting that President Moon further negotiate with North Korea on its denuclearization. Then, can we say that the upcoming Seoul-Washington summit indicates that there may have been some kind of exchanges between South and North Korea? Because many speculate that President Moon wouldn't head to Washington empty-handed.
Right. I think the better money is on the proposition that they have already. I think that the Blue House said, in effect, no comment, which means, they have had some sort of communication on that level. I think it's well advised to think that the Moon Jae-in has some sort of message from the North, but I think the more important point is what kind of message or what kind of communication he had. If it's just listening to what North is saying and relaying the message to Donald Trump, probably his role is very much at jeopardy because being a messenger or the go-between is not the role he should play at this point. If he wants to succeed as a middleman, or not the middleman, but deal maker, right, the better mediator, then he has to have some plan that both parties can make a big decision on, maybe sacrificing their positions a little, but can submit or agree to the bigger goal, which is to make the deal a success.
Now, how do you see the April 11th Seoul-Washington summit happening before an inter-Korean summit?
Right. In that sense, I think it's better, as long as there are some communications between the North and South, because, summit meetings sometimes tend to be a media event, and it's all open, so it's hard to keep a very detailed conversation going. So if they are getting prepared for a kind of summit meeting between the Moon and Trump, probably there has to be a lot of details to be worked out. So if they keep the frequent and the off the TV camera kind of communication, I think it would be better.
Now, no one would deny that the main sticking point between Seoul and Washington is the big deal, small deal dilemma, is whether the two sides will be able to meet halfway on the big deal, small deal dilemma. Do you think President Moon Jae-in will be able to come up with a good enough deal this time to persuade President Trump to keep up the momentum of nuclear dialogue?
I think indeed it's the key. I worry that if the President Moon's goal is to find some middle point, I think his ambition is too small. It's not the matter of finding some positions that both parties can agree to, at this point is kind of pessimistic because both parties are sticking to their own positions. I think the homework at this point is to construct a big enough framework that both parties can make the wiggle room in terms of giving up a little and also get a lot. I think that has been missing in the negotiation because they were going through some top-down approaches exclusively. So in that sense, the President Moon's task is to get some sort of packages ready. So his role should not be just a go-between, should not be somebody who would just relay the messages so that you'll say, come on guys, come to the middle. I don't think it has worked, and I don't think it has to be his role.
Well, it sounds like a lot of pressure on President Moon Jae-in. Now, many pundits point out that the disharmony between Seoul and Washington regarding North Korea sanctions, the U.S. looks firm to continue its maximum pressure, whereas South Korea continues to consistently voice on the need to carry on inter-Korean projects, most of which need sanctions exemptions. Do you think Presidents Moon and Trump can narrow out their differences on North Korea sanctions?
I think that's why this negotiation process has to go through some creative package-making process. If you look at those two positions, both seem to be mutually exclusive, but if we can construct a package where those sanctions and the economic cooperation or the concessions work as both a carrot and stick, but then both should not be mutually exclusive. It could be part of a larger package where one party giving up a little can guarantee the other parties much gain. So if you can see the value on that, that would be a much better solution. But I think that what has been missing is that in every step of the way, there has to be verifiability that both parties can subscribe to. Without that, no trust, and it's not going to go forward. So that's why, as you mentioned, the task is pretty big at this point.
Right. Some have questioned the effectiveness of the top-down approach of talks between the two Koreas and the U.S., especially after the no-deal Hanoi summit. What's your take on the top-down approach?
I guess it depends on how you define the top-down approach. In my thinking, the top-down approach kind of ends, the limitations ends where the summit meeting takes place. I think that's enough to say that the top-down approach has succeeded. In this situation, because we've said it several times that the devil is in the details. The peace process is very complex and multifaceted. Economic cooperation has multiple players and very complicated process. Then we have to treat it that way, which means we have to have very detailed processes, detailed contingencies in place so that both parties can kind of agree to. And there comes the incentives and carrots, those can be included. But without that, just big guys getting together and shake hands and being happy together, both like each other, I don't think we're at that stage. We have to go past that stage and come to a very comprehensive package. I would almost imagine a thick book at the end of which there's a signature page for both Trump, Kim, and also President Moon.
The April summit could be an important turning point in breaking the nuclear impasse and moving things forward. How do you think Seoul and Washington both should utilize this opportunity?
Right. The special thing about this summit is that time is running out. You cannot really continue going through another Hanoi, another Seoul, another summit meetings. I think that this is a time where they both have to make big decisions to submit to a larger package. Keep going back to the same theme, but this session has to be a strategy session where both parties come up with certain packages that both parties can subscribe to. And it's not going to be a small matter, but it requires President Trump making a decision as to what kind of verifiability they can kind of count on to give a little to the North Korea. And North Korea has to make a big decisions on the denuclearization. And in order to do that, there has to be some assurances and some very detailed plan for economic cooperation.
North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Hee recently stated that North Korean leader will soon make an official announcement on North Korea's post-Hanoi plans. Kim Jong-un is yet to make the announcement. Do you think he will make the announcement before the Seoul-Washington summit? And what kind of plans do you think he will come up with?
Well, I think that if there were some communications between Moon and Kim, probably that's part of it. Hopefully that's part of it, because unilateral action from the North, more often than not, has been pretty disruptive force. So if they want to make an opportunity, utilize that opportunity to announce some big decisions that can be enticing to the United States, and also contributory to the making of the peace regime with the detailed sub-points, probably that's better. But if not, then my worry is that that's going to be another brinkmanship from the North, and that's not going to help any process at this point.
Before I let you go, let's slightly brush upon the regional players. What do you think China and Russia want out of this Seoul-Washington summit?
Well, we've kind of known that China has always played a role of being a backstop for North Korea, and to a lesser extent Russia as well. Because of the tensions between the Russia and the U.S., they always want to be kind of on the side of the negotiating table. Going back to the analogy of the negotiating table, North Korea, and behind of North Korea, there's always been China, and one step backwards, there was Russia. So I think that North Korea will try to utilize the allies that he has, but also the United States will be also mindful of who's in the background and try to either get the dissension among the trade partners, but at the same time utilize North Korea or the China as a helper in the negotiation. But with the recent happenings in the trade negotiation, probably that's not going to be an easy task.
Well, I genuinely hope for some meaningful progress this time from Seoul and Washington. Thank you so much for your perspectives today.
Thank you.